Yeah, well, my name is Rachel McClister, and me and my husband Jeremy, we breed and raise and show both varieties, the toy and the standard version of the Manchester Terrier. Um, I come across the Manchesters, I guess, kind of by accident. I'm actually a Doberman person, have loved Dobermans since I was a kid. Um, I was always raised with bigger dogs, German Shepherds. We always had German Shepherds. Of course, when I became an adult, I had Dobermans. Doberman was my first show dog as well. But my mom traveled a lot with me to the dog shows, and she's in a partially paralyzed, and she's always liked the little dogs. So she was looking for a smaller dog, and she wanted me to show the dog for her. So I said, well, it's got to be a dog that can be tough enough that if a rambunctious Doberman puppy, young one, is out in the yard or in the house with it, it's not going to break something. So I done my research. She was wanting a small dog, low shedding, short hair, and of course I was wanting something that could go out and run and play and have a good time and not break itself. So I found the excuse me, the Manchester Terrier. I originally looked at the standard variety back then because they are a little bit bigger. They're over 12 pounds to 22 pounds for the show ring. My mom wanted something a little bit smaller, so we ended up with the toy variety for my mom. And then later, when me and my husband got married, he refused to show Dobermans. He said he's not going in that ring. It's too brutal for him. But he liked my mom's little dog Raven, and he actually practiced with Raven. Took Raven. He actually finished his championship. My mom's little dog, and so He fell in love with the breed. And in 2005, um, we decided to purchase together our first Manchester to show. It was supposed to have been his little show dog. We got lucky. One of what I consider one of the best breeders in the country. She's passed this last year. Jerry Hobbs happened to move to our state to Kentucky at that time, and we found her, and she lived just a few hours away from us, so we was able to meet her dogs, and we loved what we seen. Beautiful little sound dog. She had a female named Cassie at that time out showing. Friendly, um, but still reserved. Um, Moved beautiful, had a beautiful body. Jerry knew the history in and out of the breed, had all the information you would want from a breeder to find. She had all the documentation of previous dogs and talked with us for hours. And so we was put on a waiting list for one of her puppies. When that litter out of Cassie was born, we went, and I called her the drill sergeant. She was tough on you. She put each puppy on the table, said, okay, I want you to tell me what you think of each puppy, and then I'll tell you what I think. And of course, the puppy I picked was her pick. And so we worked out a deal where we co owned her until she finished, and Jerry got the first litter, but we got a puppy from her. And that was my Jade, um, Earendil's, I'm sorry, Heaven High's spirit dancer, which is our first champion. And we bred from her, and everything it comes down from my toy line comes out of her. Um, they're just a fabulous little dog. I love both varieties, toys and standards. They're a little different. The standards are a little bit more gamey. Um, they'll chase a little bit more than the toys will. The toys were bred a little bit more as companion dogs versus the standard variety. But we have both, and we've been obsessed with the breed ever since. So that's kind of where we got our start, was from the little Raven dog for my mom, and then Jade, that changed everything. Matter of fact, I no longer show Dobermans. We all of our time is focused on preserving and showing and educating about the Manchester.
That's very cool. Here's a two-part question, but I'll start with the first part. Can you tell us about the history of the standard Manchester Terriers as you know it and as you come to learn?
Yeah. Okay. So for centuries in England, dating back to the 1600s, there's a dog known as the Black and Tan Terrier. A lot of the dogs that we know today, including the Manchester, a lot of the Terriers, even the Doberman, other breeds, are descendants from this old style of a Black and Tan Terrier that's now extinct. Um, Around the 1800s, of course, they were bred for vermin, but there was some breeders that wanted to improve the breed for what they was wanting. So they bred um, Whippets, maybe some Greyhound. They're not really sure exactly, but they know Whippet was in there to these Black and Tans, and that's where we get today's Manchester from, the standard Manchester from. Of course, they was used for pit dogs, so they would get these rats. They would purchase like 500 rats from the rat catchers, and they'd put them in pits, and they would put various breeds of dogs in here in these pits, and they would time the dogs to see how many rats they could kill in a certain amount of time. And then also they were also used for coursing rabbits, and so the history goes that's primarily what they were used for. And then the toy come about where the ladies in the Victorian era, of course, they carried a lot of little dogs to get the fleas off of them. So they kind of liked the Manchester, but of course the standard variety was a little too big for, the lady to have this little dog. So they started getting these smaller and smaller Manchesters, and then they would breed them, of course, smaller and smaller, and they would carry them around used to get the fleas off of them. And they actually started breeding them way too small, the toy variety, and so they seen that these dogs were not so healthy, so they kind of backtracked a little bit and started breeding them a little bit bigger for the toys. And so that's where you got the toy and the standard from.
What what did they use anything to bring the size down originally, or was it
Uh,
just
it's thought that there might have been some other breeds. I know here in America, when they come over later, there's some talk about the Chihuahuas for size. In England, it's thought that mainly they just kept the smaller dogs and just kept breeding smaller and smaller. There might have been a couple little, a dog here and there, but really back then there wasn't a whole lot of record keeping. So it was just whatever they seen that was small, they just kept and bred. Like I said, and over here in America, when they came over here, there's thought to be maybe the Chihuahua to bring down some of the size, because in some of the toys you will see more of a apple head, so you'll see it in a smaller nose.
can you and again this same style of question, can you talk about the official standard of the standards and then the toy?
Yeah. So the standard in the toy variety here in the United States and Canada is the exact same standard except for size, which is 12 pounds and under is the toy variety. Anything over 12 pounds to 22 pounds is the standard. Anything over 22 pounds for the show ring is disqualified. So if I have a toy Manchester Terrier born in a toy litter, it if it goes over 12 pounds, it can be shown as a standard, because here in America they are the same breed with just two different varieties, and we can also interbreed them here in the United States. Now in England and other parts of the world, they're considered two different breeds. There's actually a name change. So you've got the standard Manchester Terrier, which of course is the standard universal, and then in England and some other countries they're known as the English Toy Terrier. And there they are two totally separate breeds. They cannot be interbred. And then, of course, the only other difference besides size for the standard is ear. The standard variety can have the cropped, a button ear, or a natural erect ear. And the toy can only have the natural erect ear. So that's the only differences as far as the standard is here in the United States. They're a small black and tan dog. They can only come in those colors. The markings of the tan can be a richer mahogany down to a lighter brown color, beige color. Um, they're to have a nice wedge shaped head, um, nice dark eye. You want a really dark eye. That was to prevent the rats from finding their eye and getting them. And then that's where these tan markings come into play. You got a nice little tan marking above the eye, on the little cheeks, and it was thought that if the rats would see something, they would go after the tan markings versus the eye when they're fighting the rats. Of course, they've got the tan on the paws, and there's what they're known as a thumbprint and pencil markings on the feet. And then the chest, they've got what we call rosettes on the chest. Uh, when people think of that, think of Rottweiler, Doberman, as far as those type of markings go. They got a nice, thick, dense coat. It's not a thicker coat like a Rottweiler or anything. Think Doberman, Whippet type coat. It's a nice, short coat, tight. Should be nice and shiny. Um, they're not a square breed. They are slightly longer than they are tall. And they have a very unique top line, as though it's not a straight top line, but it's not a roach top line like, or a really arched top line like you would see in a lot of the sighthounds. It's just slightly arched over the loin. And this unique top line is enables it to maneuver in those pits and course. So they can be running and just turn and flip on a dime and get in all kinds of positions. So that's a very unique top line. It's more of a muscle arching, makes that top line very flexible. Um, they have their feet are a little bit different. They're not a nice cat foot like you would think of in some of the bigger breeds. They're a little bit between a hare and a cat foot. They're going to have two toes that are slightly longer in the front, so that's more of a hare toe, and then their back toes are more cat-like. So again, that helps with the maneuverability in these pits and fighting rats and the little vermin doing all the chasing in your backyard. Um, so as far as the breed standard, it's fairly simple. They're a well-balanced dog, like I said, slightly longer than they are tall. You want good reach and drive because they got to be able to get out and course those rabbits. And again, maneuverability. So you want that beautiful little top line, which, believe it or not, is hard to get. A lot of times you can get too much of a top line or too flat. So that's something we always got to be on the lookout for, because again, proper angulation. If you get too much angulation, you can lose that top line in the back legs. And then if you're too straight back legs, you can get more of a rise to the hind end can be higher versus actually having a nice top line. But as for standard, it's fairly simple. They're just nice, slightly longer than tall, and you want a big, powerful head, big teeth. We look hopefully have all 42 teeth in that mouth with a scissor bite. When they kill something, they'll grab the rat by the neck and just swing, and it's dead. So you want that powerful bite to be able to grab a hold of that rat and swing it and kill it instantly.
And is there a height limit on each standard and toy?
There's for here. There's not a height limit. It's just the weight. It's strictly weight. Europe, I believe they do more of the height limit for the standards, but here in the United States, it's strictly weight. If they'll, and as a matter of fact, for the show rings, occasionally they will bring out the scale to double check the weight. But yeah, it's any 12 and under for the toys, and anything over 12 pounds to 22 pounds for the standard.
And when you go to breed, say the standard, what are you looking for as far as within the standard? What is your ideal standard Manchester Terrier?
Well, my ideal, when I look at the Manchester, I'm not one to sit and, I guess, kind of break down each individual part. It's a total package for me. Now every dog is going to have a fault. There's no way to get around that. Um but it's the total package for me. When I look at the standard, Of course, you got the written blueprint there, and then you've got your vision of that written blueprint. So it's important to know the history of the breed to interpret that blueprint. And so when I'm looking at a dog, I'm going to evaluate that entire dog and say, okay, is it going to be able to course that rabbit? Is it going to be able to maneuver in those pits and kill those 500 rats and not get injured? And so I'm going to look at the overall structure. Is it going to be sound enough to perform all those things? If that dog comes close enough to that standard in my mind of, yes, I can see it out there coursing, I can see it maneuvering, that's what I look for. My markings, a lot of people you'll hear there's certain breeds that they're more um, strict on their markings. That's one of the last things I consider, but it's still important. I want a good sound dog. I want a good dog with good bone that's going to be able out there and move and not break a leg. So to me, a good moving, good sound, a lot of bone, healthy dog, and something that when they do get a hold of the rabbit or the rat, that head going to be able to perform that function? Is that, I want my dogs are known for this underjaw. They've got you see a lot of them that just they really don't have that underjaw. I want that underjaw. I want them to be able to hold that big rat, because they're not killing little mice back then. They are probably today more, but so they've got to be able to hold something big in that mouth with enough power to just snap that neck instantly. So it's to me, it's more of a overall picture of, can they still perform that job if they needed to.
Very cool. And what about the toy? What are you looking for when you're breeding
This
for the toys?
For me, the exact same thing. For me, my toys need to be able to do exactly what that standard variety can. I know they were bred more for companion dogs, but my toys have proven time and time again in that backyard that they can do exactly what that standard Manchester can do. Um, I don't like the toyish heads. You see them, but I don't want that. When I look at the standard, the only difference when you read that blueprinted standard is the ears and the size as far as weight. The heads are to be the same, the body is to be the same. So I focus my toy line is focusing on that to get the toy in the standard line to be uniformed. And so I look for the exact same thing in both my dogs.
Besides the show ring, do you guys partake in any other activities?
Yes, a couple years before the COVID shut everything down, we actually AKC introduced their version of the scent work. So we in our kennel club locally, we have a lot of tracking people in that club. So we opened our club up to the scent work and the training. So we started the scent work. I've actually titled two of our dogs in scent work. And recently I have just started doing training and tracking. One of my standards is tracking. So yeah, we have started doing other things besides the confirmation. In Manchester's, we don't personally do them, but are very very good at fast cat, the barn hunt, agility. So there's a lot of Manchester people out there that do a lot of extra things with the Manchester, and they're very good at it.
I'm obsessed with dock diving. I've never done it, but I love seeing. Have you seen any Manchesters doing that?
There's a few that do them. You don't see very many, but yeah, there is a few of them that do them. Um, I'm actually in Kentucky, and we're not too far. Actually, my kennel club does one of the dog shows, the Louisville, Kentucky cluster, which is like top 5 dog shows in the country as far size wise. And they do the dock diving there, and then Lexington also does dock diving, and that's local. But I've not seen any of the Manchesters do them there yet. But there is a few that do it. They're not a huge water dog, but sometimes you can get convince one to do it.
So talk about what daily life is with a standard and a toy, and what's the differences. What are they like when they're in the house hanging out with their family?
If they are typically an adult, if they're in the house with the family, they're going to do whatever you're doing. If you want to lounge on the couch, they will sit there and lounge with you until you get up. They love to crawl on the back of your neck, and sleep on your shoulders and your lap. They're a Velcro dog in the sense you've heard that term, I'm sure, with other breeds, and they're like that. They want to be where you're at. They will follow you everywhere you go. Um, Now, if you go outside and you want to go hiking, throw a ball, whatever you want to do, they're right there for it, and they'll do it. And that, and both the toy and the standard variety will do it. Um, they'll go out chase bugs all day, whatever you can put them through. They're a very versatile dog as far as that goes. The puppies are a little bit more. We always laugh because when we bred the Dobermans, you got the bigger dogs. When people know this, when you got the bigger puppies, they're kind of more clumsy when they're younger. They're finding their feet and stuff, and they're not quite as agile. And you'll have this little toy Manchester Terrier who will climb up on the couch when it's 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old and take a nosedive, just jump for days off of this couch, or climb over a gate or something. So they're very, when they're young, they're going everywhere, and they're very agile to be able to go everywhere. So it's not uncommon for you to have a baby gate up and you look over and that dog's done come over that baby gate. So that's the life of a Manchester.
Can you talk about some of the modern health issues and what the Manchester people have to worry about, and what are some of the things that you guys are trying to
Yeah,
curb that?
yeah. So of course Manchester, it's a very small gene pool, being a rare breed, and in unfortunately it's become smaller than really what I think it should be with the division of the toy and standard lines. Um, so we really have to watch what we breed together. Me and my husband actually breed the toy and standard lines together. We're allowed to do that. Some people do that, and others import dogs from other countries to help with the health issues of to open up some of the lines to bring in healthier dogs. As far as the health testing, um, used to we kind of tested for the same. It was VWD and a thyroid, and they checked for eyes for all three. Um, in the last, I want to say 5-6 years, they've kind of separated from the health testing. Um, so both varieties are health tested for VWD, which is a bleeding disorder. And then we also test for thyroid. That's usually done yearly, every couple of years. And then they do in toys patella test. And then they also now have started, because several years ago a health issue come up. It was called juvenile cardiomyopathy. Um, it was mainly coming from one breeding program, and it was puppies were just dropping dead at like 3 or 4 months old. They were fine 1 minute and then just dead. The parent club, the American Manchester Terrier Club of America, I'm sorry, American Manchester Terrier Club, um, put together with one of the schools, and we all sent in DNA samples to get the coding for the gene that caused it, and we was able to come up with a health test for it. So now uh, the club requires that health testing, or is recommended health testing for that. And so we have that test, and then we also have a kidney test, Xanther kidney test, and those tests can be done together along with the VWD. You can send that into Minnesota and have that testing. So that's what I call like the big three. And that's seen mostly in toys, but like where I breed the toy with the standard, I test both of mine for it because it does have toys in it. And then we have some recommended testing like bear for the ears. That's not really, we don't think prevalent in the breed, but it has come up a time or two. We test for the eye for cataracts, like a lot of breeds do as they age and get older. And then it has come up in the where you can get the DNA samples. A lot of the pet people send in for the embark, and you can get like 500 tests, DNA tests done at one time. There has been found a few carriers. So far, I think there's only been two found, one in twin, one standard. Well, a couple more than two, but a few of a eye eye problem that occurs in older dogs. So the research is starting to begin on that to see who. So they're starting to recommend that testing just to make sure we don't have anything start popping up in the breed. But they're a pretty healthy dog, as far as especially considering the small gene pool. There, there's not a whole lot of health problems, and the breeders have been very good over the years of when they start seeing something, they try to get to the bottom of it, and people for the most part are open about what's going on and share the information.
What's a typical COI number, the coefficient number that you guys are running with?
It varies. I don't really worry about that too much. I know there's a lot of people that fixate on that, and I understand that, but I think if you're doing the health testing and breeding healthy to healthy, healthy isn't going to cause sick. Sick is going to cause sick, not as much as the coefficient breeding. So I mean, they've our kennel club has started it's the breed. I forget what it's called now. But anyway, it's a public website that you can go to, and you can see the pedigrees of most of the dogs, and they'll have that coefficient on there. But it is, small breed. You're going to have the tighter coefficients for the breeding. So there is a lot of line breeding and all that going on. So
Is there a pushback at all from um, the breed club? I mean, within the breed club, as far as breeding standards to toys, or is it just a kind of an
not
open
the club.
practice?
Yeah, not the club in general. There's certain breeders. Um, they're in this country early on in this country they were a divided breed, so they were two different breeds, and they had two totally different breed clubs. And then after World War II, because the numbers were so low, especially in the standards for some reason is usually the numbers are a lot lower. There's more people interested, I guess, in the breeds, and we just don't have as many breeders in the standard. So the AKC recommended that we combined to up our numbers to help with the breed. And this breed almost became extinct in England, its own home country, after the wars, and especially the standard variety. And if it wasn't for them breeding back to the toys to get the standards back and importing some dogs from America, that breed probably would have been lost. At one time, there was only 11 standard Manchesters in that country after World War II. So yeah, there is some pushback. Me and my husband have seen it firsthand when we first started doing it. Um, there was a few breeders doing it before we did, um, but we received some. I wouldn't say hate, but yeah, there's definitely people. It was like I would not buy a puppy from them, or you know, type thing. Um, but over the years, proof is in the pudding to say that we've not ruined the breed. We've not ruined the standard variety. We've not ruined the toy variety. We're breeding to the standard no matter what we breed and how we breed it. We're focusing on that breed standard. And so we're not getting, and we're selective about what we breed. So we're not getting weird looking little, Manchesters or just outrageous looking standards. And some of our dogs are some of the bigger winning dogs. We bred one of our descendants. Well, it was a litter dog we bred here last year. Well, last year in Canada, it was the number one standard Manchester Terrier, and it comes from a toy standard breeding. And when she bred that bitch, the first dog she bred it to was a toy, even though the bitch was a standard. So, and then we've have our national specialties, and we're usually right there in the running at the end of those national specialties, or the dog we sold to somebody or something they bred from that dog. So they're seeing that these dogs are sound and that they're bred to the standard no matter what. So people aren't quite as harsh as they were before, and other people are doing the same thing. They're watching what they're doing. They're still just as careful as the people who don't believe in breeding the two together.
Sure. When you do mix, um, when you breed a toy to a standard, what's usually the percentages of toys to standards that you come out of the litter?
It's really going to depend on the genetics that those parents are throwing. Um, we've got one. I've got one right now. The litter is 8 weeks old. We've got a male in there. It's going to be a standard, and the other three are going to be toy. The dad's a standard, and the mother's a toy. Um, we've also in our toy litters that are come straight down from toys. Some of those, every once in a while, you'll get one that'll come up 13 pounds. Well, if it's 12.5 pounds, it's considered a standard. So, you know, it happens. And since I've been in the breed, we've actually been seeing a lot more people who are more open to showing the oversized toy. Matter of fact, my first standard was actually an oversized toy. He was not standard bred. He come from two toy breedings. He ended up being, I think, 15 pounds. And, you know, he had everything in the world going against him. He was a button-eared Manchester, which is not seen a whole lot of. And he was an oversized toy. And he went to the national and won winner's dog. And the judge actually commented saying he was one of the most beautiful Manchesters she'd ever laid her eyes on. And when you looked at his head, you could not tell he was a toy. There was no sign of that apple head, or, he had the big jaws. And we bred him to um, both toys and standard bitches. And he produced some big winning dogs for our national specialties. He's actually helped quite a lot of breeding programs as to bringing temperament. People that bred to him, they said, because when we first got in the breed, the standard variety was more like a terrier. Um, you'd stand ringside and it wouldn't be unusual to see a terrier go after another dog. So, and I was like, I can't have that. In my house, I can't have my standard Manchester going after Doberman. The Doberman to kill it. It's, hands down. So we bred for temperament to make him just a little bit more like that. And he had the best temperament, and everything we bred him to helped that temperament. And, so he had the look of the standard, but we could take him places and he wasn't trying to kill, which they don't try to kill everything, but they're a little bit more terrier. They can be a little bit more moody, especially the females. They a little bit more moody. But so it depends on them. Big ones just pop up.
Yeah.
They'll pop up, and we always said in his litters that you could almost always count on at least one big puppy, no matter what he was bred to. If he was bred to a toy, you'd always have one nice big puppy. If he was bred to a standard, you had nice standard sized dogs. That stayed. You didn't have to worry about DQs because they would stay under that 22, but they were well over the 12.
What's the typical litter size that you guys throw with these dogs?
We've had everything from one to our biggest litter with Manchester's has been 7. So they don't have huge litters. I'm going to say anywhere from 3 to 5 is typical of what we've typically had as far as litter size, and that's for both varieties. You will see the standards on occasion seem to produce a little bit bigger litters from time to time. You'll see the 11. I think a breeder here a few years back actually had 12,
Wow.
which everybody was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's huge. But I'd say 6, 3 to 5, 3 to 6 is typical for both varieties.
Hmm. So what if you had a dog that was 25 pounds, but had everything that you wanted, the temperament, the look, the structure, all of that? Would you use it in your breeding stock even though you couldn't show it?
Me, absolutely 100% yes. Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. And everybody that knows me knows that's exactly what I would say. Um, you know, am I going to use him a lot? Maybe not. I would be watch what he was bred to and then carefully select the puppies out of that. Um, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If that is a sound dog and he is healthy and has everything, that size, I don't quite care a bit about that size at all. Yeah, it don't bother me one bit. Other people, yeah, they'll fix that dog in a heartbeat and it will go to a pet home. And I've seen it happen. But for me, of course, I'm able to keep more dogs than a lot of people. So, you got to also figure too, if you're a breeder that can only keep 2 dogs or 3 dogs, you got to be more selective of your dogs. But I can kind of keep a dog, let it grow up and see what it's going to produce, use it, see what it's going to produce. And if it's producing too much size, then okay, I'll get that dog fixed and place it in a pet home. But yeah, it's the breed is in too much trouble to just start throwing out dogs for something as size and markings are, like I said, the last thing I concern myself about.
How are the moms in the whelping
I
process?
I think they're really good. In my opinion, over the years, we've had a couple that maybe not the grandest mothers of all time. Jade, matter of fact, my foundation bitch, once them puppies was 3 weeks old, she was done. She was over it. Get them out of here. I've got other mothers that, if she could nurse them till 10, 12 weeks old, they would. They're very good moms. Overall, they're pretty easy whelpers. On occasion, you got to watch it, especially because sometimes you will have the smaller litters, the 1 or 2 puppies. Those puppies can get quite large, and especially with the toy breed, with them being smaller, we've had to have a few C-sections over years, and it's been because you've got one very large puppy in there, typically. But no, they usually do pretty good as far as whelping. Um, Usually easy whelpers. And then as far as taking care of them, they're very good at taking care of them. Um, and they'll take care of other puppies. It uh the puppy we sent up to Canada, a friend, she's got a litter on the ground right now, and somebody she knew, something happened with the mother, couldn't nurse the puppies. It was corgis, and so they sent them to the puppies, and the Manchester mother nursed them as well. Here a while back, we had a couple litters at the same time. The one mother wasn't producing milk right away. It took her a while for that milk to come in, and the other bitch looked like a sow cow. I mean, she had milk for days, and we would put those puppies in there, and she got where she didn't want you to take those puppies back out to take them anywhere else because those were her puppies then. So they're very good mothers. And they're very good aunts. Older puppies coming up, they'll play with them and teach them. And so yeah, they're very easy. A lot of the bigger breeds, you got to watch with them stepping or laying on the puppies. The toy variety overall is very gentle with the puppies. I've only really had one that was kind of a clumsy mother that would kind of step on them. Usually they'll like tippy toe around them. The standards, they'll kind of lay on them sometimes, but they're still a lot easier compared to my Dobermans that would just lay on a puppy. So yeah, they're excellent mothers.
So when you have a litter and you're evaluating the puppies and you're looking to keep one, um, what are you looking for? You kind of answered earlier, but altogether, like, what stands out for you as far as temperament and structure and all that? What's the, like, okay, at 8 weeks, that's the one I'm going to keep.
Yeah. Um, it's like you said earlier, the puppy that catches my eye. I will sit and just watch them. watch them play. We have a whelping room, and I'll sit in there in the recliner and just sit and watch the puppies, especially when 3 weeks and up, really start watching. And it's the puppy usually that catches your eye, unless there's something specific that I'm needing out of that breeding program, like a better shoulder or something like that. Um, it's that puppy. It's got the attitude. Look at me. I'm here. It's the one that never puts that foot wrong. It's the one that when he stops or she stops in that yard, you're that's all you can see. That's kind of how I evaluate my dogs. A lot of people will put them on. My husband does. He'll put them on the table structurally. Me, I'm watching them in the yard. Okay, if I see something in the yard, then I might have to sit it on the table, say what's going on. But I'm the one that sits back and watches. Who do I think when I'm watching it go across that yard, or when I'm watching it play and shake that toy as it moves, and so I can't say I break down and I'm looking for this perfect shoulder or this perfect back end or whatever. I look more for the whole picture, and that puppy that just I can't keep my eye off of. And of course that usually comes down to the attitude and structure put together, and that's the puppy that usually ends up staying with me. Or going to the show home, that I just can't keep another puppy, so it goes to the show home.
What's what's one thing or two things that is just a no go for you? You might have everything that you like except these one or two things, and it's just like, no, I can't do it.
Movement. I'm very hard on movement. That's probably, and I'm known for that. I'm not going to take the puppy. It can't move. Um, I think that's from my big dog days. I think big dog people are more to that than little, because you'll see a lot of little dogs, and it ain't just Manchester's, but a lot of little dog people in the shows or whatever venue they're at, and they'll overlook that movement more than a big dog person will, because we know if that movement if that movement's wrong, there's something going on somewhere, and structurally that's going to break down over time, so you're going to have a dog that's going to limp and have more arthritis, hip problems, you know so I'm really big on movement. um and temperament. I i can't have a dog that's going to be aggressive or crazy or anything like that, and again, it comes from the big dog. um I don't want one it's too shy either. This breed is a bit aloof or standoffish towards strangers, and they should be. They're a terrier. They're not a social butterfly. So I'm not talking like that kind of aloofness. I'm talking about just scared of the environment altogether. So that's something I'm not going to breed to. And then, like I said, the movement, because that's going to tell me there's something going on somewhere. So those, for me, are the two that I will place a dog in a pet home, or just not keep it and not use it in the breeding program if I can't place it. So, but those are my two big things.
Where, what part of the world besides the U.S. and Canada are breeding good Manchesters these days?
Uh, I'm seeing some nice ones in Australia. And you're seeing some nice ones in like the Netherlands and stuff that I've been seeing. I think they're making um a lot of improvements from what I see. I'm not a big I don't like the division in the breed. I think it's really hurt the toy variety, the English toy terrier, in my opinion. Um, and so if you look up the English toy terrier and look at them, the body is totally different. The head structure, a lot of them are totally different. You're going to have more of the apple heads and the really snipey muzzles, um, really straight rear ends, cow hawking. And I'm not seeing so much of that anymore in the Australian and the Netherlands. Um, I'm seeing a lot better. I'm seeing more uniformity to the standard variety. So, if I was I say if had to import a dog somewhere, those would probably be the two places that I would look at, because I think as far as being uniformed with the US dogs and what I like and what I think the standard is, in my opinion, those are the two that I would consider the best.
Now, as far as the show world is concerned, like, um, I'm not a show person, but I've interviewed a lot of people in the show world, and I have a lot of respect for that world. And I grew up watching, the Westminster from the '80s on. I'm 49 years old now, and so I have a lot of great memories about it, and I have a lot of good feelings about like that world and stuff. But the more I've gotten to know, the less enthusiastic I am about it. What are some things that you think would be beneficial for the show world to be more inclusive towards, not just, I'm not talking about the normal inclusivity that people love to spout these days, but I mean, um, but just being more inclusive towards new people and people that maybe have new ideas and new ways of doing things, and aren't from a generational type of atmosphere or whatever.
I agree. There needs to be a lot of improvement in the show world. I don't come from the show world. I didn't start showing till in my late 20s, early 30s. And I started in a very hard breed, the Doberman. I had no experience in showing, and I can tell you right now, I couldn't get a hold of a dog. It was very difficult. And when I got my first dog, it was somebody coming out of showing because they'd had enough of showing, and they got a lot of hate. And he was a wonderful dog. He was a Doberman. He lived to 12 and a half years. Beautiful dog. He got some single points, but the Doberman breed is, and a lot of the breeds, if you're not a professional handler or a third generation show person, you're not going to get a dog finished or gotten that dog from a certain breeder. So yeah, we need to quit gatekeeping. We need to, the only way we're going to keep the breeds of dogs that we love alive and around for future generations is being more open to the general public, the pet people, the people that just want a companion, the people who might just want to go out, maybe just play in some side sports, dock diving, or, AKC has the trick dog thing, or do therapy work. Um, so we need to quit thinking we're so much better than everybody else. And yeah, we have a lot of knowledge. There's, these three generation peoples, they have more knowledge than I'll ever have, a lot of them, but they need to be more open to giving out that information and sharing the knowledge versus just automatically assuming things that, oh, this person, because they don't have live in a certain way or do certain things, that they shouldn't be allowed to have a certain dog or their dog or whatever. So we need to be more open minded and share and not shut people down so quickly. It can be hard. Like I said, I don't come from the show world, so I understand what it's like to be shut down, to not say, "Oh, well, you've not finished the dog. I'm not going to sell you a dog." You know. Um, so we need to listen more and educate more. Educate the person that when they contact you, it doesn't quite ask the right questions that might come off weird because you don't know our language. I guess we almost speak two different languages. Most the general public does, and so they might, the first thing they're going to ask me would be, "How much is that dog?" Well, to most show people, that's almost an. I started out older in dog shows. I'm not a third or fourth generation dog show person. So I had to go through the process of getting a dog, and of course it wasn't from the best, maybe the top breeder. But so I think what happens is you've got people in the dog show world who are 3, 4 generations in, and over the years they've had issues with people, because there's issues on both ends. You've got where breeders have sold puppies to somebody, and those people have done things that they really shouldn't have. Dogs ended up in shelters or bred, breedings they shouldn't have probably done. So there is a reason why people feel that way sometimes, but we also got to understand that's not everybody. We need to have more of a conversation. When somebody contacts us, just don't cut somebody off because they didn't say the right wording, because the dog show people, especially the ones that are multi-generational, it's a different language. How you interact with people is different with dogs. And so a lot of times if somebody contacts them and says, I'm looking for a puppy, how much is it? They automatically get defensive because to them price should not be an issue. So to them that's you're just looking for a cheap dog right away is the first thing that pops to their mind. So we need to get out of that mindset and just understand that we come from two different worlds, kind of, and that we need to learn how to talk and explain, explain, hey, when you contact a person, that might not be the first thing you say. You want to say, you know, um, what are the parents like? What are you like as a breeder? Versus, well, how much is your dog? Can I come get it tomorrow? We get that. I've gotten people say, so I'm looking for a Manchester. How much is it? And can I come next week and pick up the puppy that I want? And that's not how show people do. We try to place the puppies into the homes that best suit that puppy. Where a lot of people that are, the general public are used to going down in front of the store and seeing puppies for free, and they can just pick whatever dog they want, or to the shelter and get whatever dog they want. Or the ad, years ago, you'd run the ad in the newspaper and you'd go to somebody's house, and whatever pup you thought was cute or ran to you first, you kind of grabbed. And so show people don't place puppies like that. We do evaluations on health or temperament testing. The shy puppies, the more outgoing puppies. Is your home going to be suitable for that particular puppy? So that whole conversation needs to take place on both sides. And that's where a lot of the barriers are. And then we are very protective of our dogs. We've worked, especially if it's multi generation, you've worked generation after generation for those dogs to get it to where you think it should be. And you can lose a line if you don't watch what you're doing. So it's important to them that they do place them with somebody they can absolutely trust. So there has to be trust on both sides, but we have to have the conversations first. And so on our end, we do need to not kind of jump to conclusions right away. And that can be said on both sides. But yeah, we do have people in the dog show world that will just automatically just shut you down. And a lot of it's just because they've been burned so many times with their dogs they've placed. Um, the the lady that started us in Manchester, she was really tough. We called her the drill sergeant because she'd been in she started out St. Bernard's and then later Manchester's, but she'd been in dogs many years. And she said, I'm tough because I want to make sure you're going to stick around. So many people come into purebred dogs in the show world and they might just do one litter or just have a dog for a little bit and then they disappear and the dogs disappear. So, but it's important that we we work with that conversation. As far as the Manchester people, I think they're really good about working with new people, trying to get people into the breed. A lot of us come from other breeds that are tougher to get into. A lot of us come from Dobermans. Dobermans is extremely hard to get into, and get really good quality dogs when you're not been around. If you don't have somebody as your pretty much a sponsor to come in to get a breed from a dog from somebody, it's extremely difficult to get a dog. And if you do get a dog in the Dobermans, that it's the price is 3 times higher than almost any other dog. They they co-own the dog almost for its entire life. They get to decide the breedings and a bunch of stuff. So a lot of us have come from that world and like, no, that don't work. We can't do that. The normal average person don't want you making the decisions for a dog they've purchased their entire, for the entire time they've got the dog. So a lot of us, and we're more, I think our breed is very open to helping new people come in. And I see it all the time, especially young people, juniors. Um, our club works a lot with juniors trying to get new people in the breed, um, placing dogs with people with very limited strings attached, for a new person. Like it might just be a co-ownership until you in a mentorship for a while until you get going and then you're on your own type thing. Um, but we just got to learn to have a conversation and quit shutting each other down. Hmm.
It's interesting to hear each breed's perspective on that, and I'm reminded quite a bit when I do talk to people that the world that I'm in is not necessarily the world that you're in. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
and I can't project a lot of times what the Saint Bernard world is like compared to the English Bulldog world. It's different. So,
Yeah.
but I do see uh, similarities on the lack of inclusivity and just kind of the unwillingness to bend a little bit on in a lot of uh, in a lot of people. But then I also see the opposite. I hear a lot of people that have been in the sport for a long time say that we have to continue to be more inclusive and think about the next generation because this is an aging sport and it's the numbers continue to dwindle and with today's economy and technology there people are not as apt to do the same things that they were willing to do 20 years ago even. So um, talk about how important um, it is to have uh, partnerships, loosely or tight, close or just within the community where you can do things like share your bloodlines, uh, you know, work out deals where it's not only cost effective but is going to move your program forward for both of your programs forward or maybe you're going to help this person out this time because in the future they're going to help you out. Just kind of talk about those kinds of things that how important those scenarios are to your program.
That's very important. My mentor, Jerry Hobbs, who we got, well, it was technically my second Manchester, but mine and my husband's foundation bitch, and eventually our foundation dog from. She was an older lady who had lost her husband a few years before, fixed income, lived in a small house, so she couldn't keep a lot of dogs. Um, so her philosophy was she kept a certain number of dogs, this like 3 dogs or whatever it was, typically just bitches. She generally I've never known her to really keep any males. But she would place a lot of times her males on whatever it was, whether it was a certain amount of money or you got the dog and you got certain amount of back from stud service or whatever. But she done that a lot. But with us, when we got Jade, we met her. she ended up liking us, seeing that, yeah, we had been in Dobermans for years and really was serious about it. Um, she had a litter. We went and evaluated the litter. My pick was her pick as well. And she said, okay, but I'll let you have the dog, but you pay a certain amount of money. We co-own it until she gets finished. And the first litter, I get that litter. So she took the litter, she whelped it, she picked the stud, and then I got a dog back from that if I wanted. And then that dog was mine to do with what I wanted. So we did that. And, we finished her, had that done. She ended up giving us a male free and clear because we did right by her. So she gave us this beautiful male. No money, no strings attached, no co-ownerships or nothing. Just down the road, other than if I want to use the dog, can I use the dog down the road? And over the years, I got several dogs from Jerry from breeding she did like that. She would just say, here you go, take this dog. And she was free to use it if she wanted to use it, if it was male. And if it was a female, she'd come up and say, hey, later, can I need something new for my stock, breeding stock, because she couldn't breed constantly and she couldn't keep dogs constantly. And she done this with other people. So that way, if she needed something, she could get something somewhere. And then, from learning from her on how she done it, and I liked how she done that. And she mentored you. She didn't just give you a dog and say, this is the way it has to be done. Now, she, like I said, she was a drill sergeant. We called her that. So she could be tough on you. But when she seen you put in the effort and you was learning and growing, she'd let you do that. Me and her would butt heads from time to time. Um, but she respected my judgment on a dog and what we was doing. And she always told people, if you want a nice dog, you can go to them. If you need a puppy evaluated, you can go to them because we've put in the effort, we learned, we've moved forward, and we ended up mentoring people. And a lady we mentored in standards, and she actually got a bitch from us. We kind of done the same thing. Here's this dog. Um, I can't remember if we had money or not involved or whatever. But here's this dog. We're going to co-own up till she's finished in the first litter. And we did that. She got her puppy. We got the litter. We split all that, did all that. And through the years, we kind of kept working together. I ended up giving her another bitch. We did co-breedings together. Um, so we worked really well together, and we mentor her, but we also let her make her own decisions on the dogs. She might ask us something and we might agree or not agree, but it didn't matter. We were still friends at the end of the day. And what was important is that we done what we thought was right with our breeding programs. And a few years ago, um, you know, I I plan out my breeding several years in advance, as much as you can. You would through pedigrees and okay, this is what I need to get to where I need to be. I had a beautiful male that I was going to use to go back to for my standard line where I do the outcrossing some, so I needed to go in back into my line. And he ended up sterile. Well, I did not have any because I had, placed the pet dogs and they were fixed, and I didn't have anything really I could go back to because of the certain crossings, but she had a dog down that she had co-owned with somebody else, and we talked to her and she said, well, I've got, this dog, and I've got a bitch that's in season that's was from a litter that I actually bred that she co-owned with us for a while. And she said, why don't you take them and breed them and you keep the litter and you decide what you need out of that litter. And without her allowing me to do that, I would have either not been able to go forward at all with my lines or take several years back and try to redo what I did. And but I've got with that breeding, I kept a male. He's producing beautiful dogs for me. His sister went to Canada. She was the number one bitch in Canada last year. This dog here, we had our big national specialty last year. at one of what they call satellite shows, which is a show either before or after the national, but it's at the same location, pretty same dogs. And he actually went best of variety for that show, and he got to select another day, or I'm sorry, award of merit another day. So, and but people, they're seeing what he can produce, and that's where he's producing better than what he is. And he's a nice dog, but he has his faults. But his sons are a lot better than what he is, and his daughters. So without her doing that, I wouldn't have ended up where I'm at today. I would have probably took 2 or 3 steps back with my breeding program. So it's important that we mentor people, and we also are open to be mentored. We have one issue we are seeing is younger people coming in who are not wanting to put in the work as much. Some younger people, not all. Um, they want to walk in, get those ribbons, and they don't understand the work that goes into it. And it's not just about the ribbons; it's about those dogs being able to be what they were bred for originally. And that's part of the what those ribbons are is, evaluation of breeding stock. So we have to do the study, and we got to study the pedigrees, we got to study the anatomy, we got to understand how all that works together, so we in training and conditioning and all that. So but it's vital that we're open to mentor people, but not be demanding of them, as far as you have to do it my way, you have to do everything what I say. So yeah, but yeah, it's invaluable for breeding for dogs. To me, it's just, if I there's something that I know I'm going to want to breed down the line, you just make a nice contract out, and say, okay, this is what it's expected, the litter back or whatever. And then, but if you don't want to do that, then it's just, you know, it's your dog, free and clear. Here's the money or whatever. And really to put in the homes like where we keep them intact, I really have to really feel good about the person, because like I said, there's been stories of people burned. The lady that mentored me, she's had that happen on multiple occasions, where she's placed dogs in, not necessarily, I guess they call them guardian homes now, but not necessarily a guardian home. But the dog was intact, she was supposed to have been able to use the dog or breed the dog, and then all of a sudden the person's moved and you don't know where they're at, or where the dog's at. And so you've got this dog that was left intact that you don't know. You might have been relying on that dog. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept of, that of the guardian homes. I do think it is being used in some senses as too much of a, for certain breeding programs, as a way for them to get underneath the radar of breeding a whole lot of dogs, and not being accountable really for the upkeep, and kind of taking advantage of people. You placing this dog in a home, and you get pretty much every litter down the road, and they're paying for all the expenses pretty much. And it's being used as that. We see that in certain designer, especially the what we call the designer breeds. We're seeing that uptick quite a bit, where there's breeders that have 100+ dogs in guardian homes, and they're producing these puppies left and right, and selling them. And so uh, it's a good thing, and it's a good thing if it's used right, and it's a bad thing if it's used just solely to fly under the radar of kind of breeding ethically.
How important is um, line breeding for you, and uh, how hard of is it a decision for you to think of an outcross? Can you talk about both those scenarios for you and what that looks like for your program.
Line breeding is extremely important to me. Um, I think maybe more so is because I'm working with the two different varieties that are they are one breed, but they're two different varieties, and the varieties can look different, but they're not supposed to. So it's important for me because line breeding is what gives you the look, that certain style. Okay, it's going to lock that in for you. So for me, I'm trying to bring in the toys and the standards and make them look like the written standard. So in my mind, they need to be uniformed. So it's extremely, I mean, right now we're pretty much we're a lot closer with my standard line than we are my toy line as to getting what I think is the appropriate look. You know, I want them to be able to stand next to each other, and I want the person to be able to say, "Yeah, that comes from Rachel and Jeremy," and that's their. But I don't know if it's a toy or standard. I have to put it on the scale type thing. You know what I'm saying? And as far as outcross, I have to be extremely picky with my outcross, because I'm I'm extremely picky about certain things, and my biggest pet peeve is movement, and I think it's coming from the bigger dogs, the Dobermans, and we see a lot of problems with the especially the toy lines with really bad fronts and rears together. It's improved, but we still get that. So, and that's another reason why I do the outcross from the lines as far as the toy to the standard, because the standards in general seem to be structurally more sound, in my view. So and as far as outcross, I want a dog. When I look at that dog, I'll look at the pedigree for a couple generations as far as what the dogs look like, but I'm going to look at what that dog is producing more than anything. And then I'm going to look at the dog itself. Is that dog going to complement my dog? I want the dog to kind of look like my dog with what my dog needs. Does that dog have a better eye than my dog? Is that, if my dog needs a better eye, and then I'm going to make sure I'm not going to bring something else in, like a bad front, a bad rear, because I can wait on that eye where I just can't sacrifice my fronts and rears. So when I outcross, I have to be very picky. And unfortunately, I brung in a dog that the fronts weren't that great, but the dog was nice overall. And it's thrown in some bad fronts on me. So we're going to have to back up. I went against my better judgment. I got something really nice out of it, but now that generation was fine. I produced the nice dog, but when I'm bringing those puppies, when I'm breeding him to certain bitches, I'm seeing this really bad front that I can't deal with. So we're having to kind of take those dogs out that we let grow up. They're going to have to be placed, and I'm going to have to bring in dogs with better fronts. So you got to be careful when you're going out cross. You really do. And sometimes we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So sometimes we do bring in something maybe we in our head we're like, well, we shouldn't do that. We do it anyway. And then you get the perfect example of what I've got right now. I'm looking at these dogs and these fronts and I'm going, I can't. I can't do it. Yeah, will they finish? Yeah, probably, yeah. But when I look at a Manchester and I look at the dog, I'm like, is that what I want to produce? Is that what is actually needs to be produced? And again, when you got the structural, and I'm big at the structure on the front and the back, if these dogs are going to go do something else, agility, fast cat, stuff like that, they're going to break down faster if they got these structural issues. So I'm not really willing to sacrifice that. So, you know, uh, you've got to be careful. And sometimes we do have to sacrifice and do that, but make sure you're willing to fight those battles and end up having to like kind of stop what you're doing and say that wasn't smart, redo, so.
So when you are looking for a stud dog, and this is for uh, stud dog owners and people who are looking for a stud dog, what are some of the things that you need from a stud dog owner?
Videos. I don't like pictures. You can kind of maneuver a dog to kind of make it look better than what it is. So if I don't have my hands on the dogs or the offspring, I want videos of the male, and I want videos of any offspring they've got, or at least a few offspring. And usually what I will look at is what they have been bred to. What have those males been bred to? Because that play, it's not just the male. You got to put that female in the factor. So I want to know what those females and what pedigrees those females that male dog has been bred to. And then I want to see what those offspring is are producing. Because if you've got a real, if the dog's been bred to dogs that have issues already, a lot of issues, and you're hoping that male's going to fix everything, well, the offspring, you're not going to have good offspring. But if you've got you got nice bitches that just have maybe a couple little things that he just needed to fix, well, then you're going to have nice offspring. So I can't just look at the dog and say, well, he's a pretty dog, he's going to produce. You don't know what he's going to produce, so you do need to see the offspring, and you need to see the offspring from different bitches with different backgrounds and issues. Pretty much I'm very easy going on that. Other than the health testing, I don't require a lot. You know, you might, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, I can't breed my male to a lesser bitch because she's not going to be producing the top quality, because you've got to start from somewhere. That person probably bought that bitch from somebody who's not, a lot of us are not going to give the best to somebody new. Okay. Some of us will. We've done that. I've done that. Give, somebody new a great bitches. Um, but not everybody's going to do that. And so is it fair to that person who's put in the work to this mediocre bitch that, oh, I'm not going to use my mail on you because I think the puppies aren't going to be exactly what they were. Well, I was there in Dobermans. I didn't have the highest quality Dobermans, because I couldn't touch the highest quality Dobermans. But I got a high quality bitch from somebody who trusted me. So I'm going to say, okay, you know, th- and a lot of times what I will do is I'll look at their bitch and I'll tell them, because I have several studs, and I'll say, and I've had people, I have turned down people because look at a bitch and I'll say, send me her pedigree and everything. I'll look at her and I might say, okay, your bitch needs this and this, and I don't have what you need. But this person here, their dog has the pedigree and it's producing what your dog needs. So you might want to go over here and use this person's stud. Or I might say, yeah, okay, this your bitch needs this and this, but this particular stud that you're wanting to use for me, I wouldn't use. I'd use this stud instead, you know? And so to me, when I'm breeding a dog to the bitch, I'm going to help them as much as I can. So, like I said, other than the health testing, I'm going to try to help them out as best as I can, and I'm going to help them learn and improve their puppies. It's not just about, no, I don't think I'm going to use my stud on your bitch. It's, if I tell them no, it's because I don't think it's going to help them. And then even at the end of the day, if they're like, no, I want to use that stud, okay, that's fine. We'll use the stud. It's your litter. So that's pretty much way we kind of go with the studs. Well, in 5 years, I'm hoping to actually have both of my lines where I want them as far as uniformity. Um, like I said, we're kind of having to back up a little bit on my toys and kind of redo their. I've gotten my toys have gotten. I've almost got two different lines going in my toys right now. Like they look like two different types of toys. So I've got to get. I want to get those uniformed into my vision of what the standard is, as far as size, structure, and then I want to get, and hopefully by the 10 years, I've got the both the standard and the toy to where, other than putting the dog on the scale, you're not going to know if it come out of a toy line or a standard line. Um, when you look at the written standard, that's my ultimate goal. It's not about. It would be nice. I would like to win our national specialty for best of variety or best breed with something I've actually bred and owned. We've done it with dogs that people have bred down from our stuff, so that would be nice. But as far as goes, mine's more of a breeding, getting that dog to that certain look, and maybe by then having a best of a variety or breed win at our national would be. I don't. I guess I've heard people call it like ribbon chaser. Yeah, it would be nice to win a best in show or something like that. But that's at the end of the day, that's not my goal. It's my breeding stock is the goal to have their health, their temperament, and the look of the dog where I think it needs to be as far as the standard.
Okay, last question. Um, so when you retire from your program, is there anybody that you're going to pass it on? Any family members or anything like that, or is it
Uh
just
yeah. There's really no family members. Like I said, there's people that I've mentored and hopefully they will kind of continue what I've done with my lines and continue to do what they think is right. I mean, I can't. I'm not going to mentor somebody and expect them to do it exactly the way I have or how I envision it. I just hope my lines are sound enough that the people that I've entrusted them to will keep it going as and help improve and keep the breed going. Um, Pretty much that's all. I can hope for. I mean, I'm not going to come back and be like, no, you did it wrong. Just just keep it going and keep the dogs healthy, sound, and keep mentoring other people.